Srimad Bhagavatam 4:31-15. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:31-15. Oh, this is more. One second. यथैव सूर्यात् प्रभवन्ति वारः पुनश्च तस्मिन् प्रविशन्ति काले भूतानि भूमौ स्थिरजङ्गमानि तथा हरावेव गुणप्रवाहः. Yatha, as, eva, certainly, suryat, from the sun, prabhavanti, is generated, varaha, water, punaha, again, cha, and, tasmin, unto it, pravishanti, enters, kale, in due course of time, Bhutani, all living entities, Bhumau, to the earth, Sthira, not moving, Jangamani, and moving, Tatha, similarly, Harau, under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Eva, certainly, Guna Pravaha, emanation of material nature. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all living entities, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in due course of time, everything enters into Him again. Please repeat. During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all living entities, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in due course of time, everything enters into Him again. Purport. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, impersonalist philosophers cannot understand how everything comes out from the Supreme Person and then merges into Him again. As Brahma Samhita 5.40 confirms, Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti koti shvasesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam tad brahma nishkalamanantamashesha bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Transcendental rays emanate from the body of Krishna, and within those rays, which are the Brahman effulgence, everything is existing. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Matsthani Sarvabhutani. Although Krishna is not personally present everywhere, His energy is the cause of all creation. The entire cosmic manifestation is nothing but a display of Krishna's energy. The two examples given in this verse are very vivid. During the rainy season, the rain, by rejuvenating the production of vegetables on earth, enables man and animals to obtain living energy. When there is no rain, food is scarce, and man and animals simply die. All vegetables, as well as moving living entities, are originally products of the earth. They come from the earth and again they merge into the earth. Similarly, the total material energy is generated from the body of Krishna, and at such a time the entire cosmic manifestation is visible. When Krishna winds up his energy, everything vanishes. This is explained in a different way in Brahma Samhita 5.48. Yasya ekanishvasita kalamathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahansa iha yasya kala vishesho govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. This entire material creation comes from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of annihilation again enters into Him. This process of creation and dissolution is made possible by the breathing of the Mahavishnu, who is only a plenary portion of Krishna. As you can see, the translation here is different from the one in Brahma Samhita. That doesn't mean Prabhupada is changing something. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So very nice apt examples are given here on how the Supreme Lord creates everything and winds up everything. In fact, in the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita and Chatushloki Bhagavatam, that is the topic. The Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita means the Bhagavad Gita that is summarized in 4 verses. The entire essence of Bhagavad Gita in 4 verses is 10th chapter, verses 8 through 11, 8, 9, 10 and 11. They are the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So in that, if we see, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaah. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. And here is mentioned as with all their hearts, and in the word to word it is mentioned bhava samanvitaah, with great attention, with great bhava, with great feeling and attention. Of course, when there is great feeling, there is always attention. So, aham sarvasya prabhavo, everything is emanating from him. So he is the source of everything, and everything that we perceive has its source in him. and therefore everything can be a reminder of Krishna, and that is the life and that is the vision of a pure devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what is that? स्थावर जंगम देखे न देखे तार मूर्ति सर्वत्र होय निज इष्ट देव स्फूर्ति. So here also today we have seen the word sthavara and jangamani, right? Sthira jangamani, bhutani bhumau sthira jangamani. So similar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, sthavar jangam. Madhya 8.274. स्थावर जंगम देखे ना देखे तार मूर्ति सर्वत्र होय निज इष्ट देव स्फूर्ति. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. So this is the vision of a pure devotee. So everything that is emanating from Krishna and what is not emanating from Krishna, everything is. So everything reminds him of Krishna. And not just reminds, he actually sees the Lord. So in the beginning, philosophically, we can connect everything to Krishna with the help of the Shastric references, scriptural references. For example, in today's verse is a very good example. It's an analogical verse. Means there is an analogy, two analogies actually. So Krishna is very kind. He does things in a certain way, and everything that emanates from him also are minute reflections of the way he works. For example, the entire universe is brought into existence and then it grows and produces byproducts, planets and living entities thereof, and other seas and oceans and rivers and everything, mountains, all variety, and then it produces byproducts and then it dwindles and vanishes in due course. So this same thing happens in our body also. So our body is just a minute replica of the entire universe in that sense. So by studying a small sample of God's creation, we can understand the way God works. And this is Krishna's mercy upon us, because we cannot see the big picture. We cannot see how the universe has come into existence and how it is going to be annihilated. We may see, if we are unfortunate enough to live that long in this material world, but in this lifetime, in this valuable human lifetime, where we can contemplate on these things, we cannot see these things. But Krishna is kind enough that he engineered this universe in such a way that even with the small things that we can perceive, we can remember Krishna and his extensive energies. So the shlokas, they help us connect with what we see and what the ultimate reality is. Many times we have said this, that I think in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita there are about 6 or 7 verses that are analogical, analogies. Like Vasam Chirnani Yatha Vihaya. So it's clothes example. Now we cannot understand reincarnation very well. We don't see the soul, but we see every day changing of dress. We do it every day. So with everyday examples, Krishna is connecting us to the ultimate reality. The mannerism of a tortoise. Mannerism of a tortoise. Yes, the steadiness of ocean, and then the wind and the boat. So in this way, there are many examples like that all throughout. Even the previous verse 4:31:14 is an example of the tree and its root, and pouring the water on the root of the tree nourishes every branch, twig, leaf, flower and fruit of the tree. So in this way we can this verse, that Sthavar Jangam dekhe na dekhe tara murti. So this is how it is. And even Krishna also helped us in the Bhagavad Gita of how to see Krishna at every step. Prasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashishuryayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabda khe paurusham narishu. Like that, in many ways he has mentioned, or his devotees have mentioned, how to remember Krishna. So Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. So 10.8 we have seen. Now let's go to 10.9. In the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So in the previous verse we have understood that Krishna is the source of everything, and therefore the devotees, knowing this very well, they engage themselves in Krishna's attentive service, and they can't contain it among themselves. They want to discuss it. It's so overwhelming, or it overflows the devotion, and then he speaks about it. So this speaking about Krishna, or the urge to speak about Krishna, can only happen if we are saturated with Krishna consciousness. If we are not saturated with Krishna consciousness, then we cannot sufficiently speak about Krishna. It has to overflow. So Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha, they are attentively worshipping Krishna, and they derive so much satisfaction that they can't contain it. Yes, this is the next verse. So the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, and their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is Sambandha and Abhidheya. Sambandha means to establish the position of the Lord and our relationship with Him. So Aham Sarvasya Prabhava means He is the origin of everything, and even us. So we actually belong to Him. We are His parts and parcels. So that is the Sambandha. And then what is the Abhidheya, or our transaction between the Lord and us? That the devotee devotes himself to the Lord by every facet of his existence. So, and then he discusses about, preaches this message. Then next, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti ke. So as one does this and engages his life in this way, Krishna gives him more and more intelligence on how to come back to him. It is interesting that one who is, it sometimes feels that, oh, unless I am intelligent I cannot speak about Krishna. No, here it is the reverse order. Previous verse it is mentioned speaking, and this verse it is saying he is giving intelligence. So the thing is, the service attitude, whatever we hear, we have to repeat, and then Krishna will give us more intelligence and more intelligence. So the more we agree to serve Him and actually serve Him, the more Krishna gives intelligence. Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. This pritipurvakam is important. You have to serve the Lord with feeling, knowing that actually our service is nothing. The Lord, how infinitesimal we are. The size of the soul is 1/10,000th the part of the tip of the hair. How much service can we actually do that can satisfy the Lord who is infinite? It's impossible. But because of false ego, sometimes we think that, oh, I am doing great service to Krishna. I am, of course, Krishna is kind. He says, if you preach, if you speak about me to devotees, there is no dear servant than he. But then there was Vasudeva Datta who said, please give all the sins of the universe, all the inhabitants of the universe to me, and let me suffer alone and let them go back to Godhead. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the whole universe is just like one mustard seed. What is the difference? What difference does it make if one mustard seed is taken out from a full bag of mustard seeds? So actually, if one is a preacher to that an extent, to such an extent that even he delivers the entire universe, it is insignificant service to the Lord. Even if he is so big a preacher that the entire millions of planets he delivers in his lifetime, still it is insignificant. One mustard seed or bag of mustard seeds. But it is Krishna's mercy that he accepts. Sevam managapi kritam bahudabhyupaiti. That even if we do little service, he accepts it as very great. Like Krishna says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadat. We have given this example in a few of the sessions. He says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. He calls him Mahatma. Oh, you are a great soul. Who first of all, Bahunam janmanamante. He has rotten in this material world like an idiot for millions and trillions of lifetimes. And such an idiot, when he decides himself that I want to surrender to the Lord, immediately the Lord calls him Mahatma. Actually idiot. Just understood that he is an idiot and then just recovering from that idiotic position. And Krishna calls him Mahatma. That is Krishna's goodness. So we should not be puffed up, yes, I am Mahatma. See, I am full time Mahatma. Look at me. So, my statue should be there next on the center of the street. That there is Mahatma Gandhi Road in every city of India. If you think that every city should have my road, then that is illusion. So Krishna is kind enough to call us many good things, and Krishna says, whoever artho jignasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna. Sukritino means pious people. Who are they? Who have all kinds of nonsense material desires, but at least who have come to me. Out of distress, out of wealth. They want wealth, they are not interested in me. But they have come to me. Sukritino, pious people. Where is the piety? He is still wanting the same nonsense. But Krishna is seeing that little bit, and he is seeing that good thing. So it is Krishna's mercy that he is calling rotten souls in this material, some of the rotten souls of this material world as pious, Mahatmas and But anyway, if one surrenders to the Lord, of course, that is the Mahatma position. Real Mahatma means he never fall down first place. Why we fell down and did all nonsense. But Krishna still, first line of the verse says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. He has taken Bahunam Janmanam, he is rascal, he is rotten in this world many times, but I consider him Mahatma. So, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, that is Priti, understanding that Krishna doesn't need my service, I am nobody actually. But it is Krishna's kindness that he is accepting me, even though I have gone against him for millions of lifetimes. Although he has done everything, even though we were going against him, he was still doing everything for us, maintaining us. That's why Shukadeva Goswami could not continue in his impersonal realization when he heard that, this verse. When he heard this verse, he could not contain. He was an impersonalist before. When he heard this verse, he changed. Aho bakiyam stanakalakotam jighamsaya payayadapyasadhvi lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam tatonyam kam vadayalum sharanam vrajema. So this is the mercy of the Lord. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than him, Lord Krishna, who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putana, although she was faithless and had prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Putana came with a very, very vile desire to kill him. But he accepted the good thing out of that. Oh, she offered her breast to me, so she is my mother. And he gave her the position of mother in the spiritual world. And let's be very honest. We have all approached Krishna like Putana only. Now we are sitting here chanting and whatever. But how did we make our connection? Some life, somewhere, we may have done some nonsense towards Krishna. I mean, all these lives are nonsense only. Every time, what did Krishna say? All the envious souls, I cast them into lower and lower species. So we have been envious, just like Putana. But Krishna took the good thing that, at least he gave us shelter again. So when Sukadeva Goswami heard this, that he is so merciful that even the worst thing he is taking as the best thing and he is giving the best result. And that's when he said, this is completely above even Sattvagun. Sattvagun means Brahmana. Brahmana means Shamo Damas Tapah Shaucham Kshantir Arjavam Evacha Jnanam Vijnanam Astikam. He is Kshantir. He controls his mind, he controls his senses, and he is tolerant to all the offenses. But this is more than tolerance. To tolerate somebody's offenses is one thing, but to bless those who want to curse him or kill him, that is totally different. That is way above tolerance. To give somebody something which they totally don't deserve, in a good way. So that is Krishna's mercifulness. So Priti Purvakam, that is Priti, understanding actually we are useless. And Bhajatam, Tesham Satata Yuktana, always engaged in this thing, in this kind of service, with full involvement and with full feeling. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Krishna will give intelligence more and more. Yenamam Upayantite, how to come back to him. And finally, this is the last verse of the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, 10:11. Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayamyatma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this is the attainment of prayojan, love of Godhead, where every trace of ignorance and darkness is dispelled and the living entity is completely merged in the love of God. So this is explained in the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. And Chatushloki Bhagavatam also is starting from 2:9:33 all the way through 36. Bhagavatam is summarized in these 4 verses. Ahamevāsamevāgre nānyadyat sadasatparam paschādaham yadetacca yovashishyeta sosmyaham. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself. Nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. So, how the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists in all 3 phases of and even before the creation. all three phases of time. He exists. The time has three phases only because of the temporary nature of this material world. That's why time is very important. Time is called Kala Chakra, the wheel of time, and it is also called Hari Chakra, the Lord's disc, the wheel. Actually manifests in this material world as the wheel of time. Kshitibhara haranam kala chakrayudhasya. Kshitibhara haranam. The weight, the unnecessary burden of irreligious people is diminished by the Supreme Lord in his by his weapon of time, of the wheel of time. So it is called also Hari Chakra. I think that is mentioned. Yeah, fifth canto. I think 5:14:25 is that? 20 Hari Chakra. Yeah, 5:14:29. This is actually not a verse, it's a prose. Kadachid Ishvarasya Bhagavato Vishnoschakrat Paramanvadi Dviparardhapavarga Kalopa Lakshanat Parivartitena Vayasa Ramhasa Harata Abrahma Trinastambadinam Bhutanam. Abrahma means from Brahma, Trina means grass. From Brahma down to the grass. Abrahma Trinastambadinam Bhutanam Animishato Mishatam Vitrasta Hridayastam Eveshwaram Kalachakra Nijayudham. Nija Ayudham. Ayudham means weapon. Sakshat Bhagavantam Yajnapurusham Anadritya Pakhanda Devata Kanka Gridhra Bakavata Praya Arya Samaya Parihritaha Sanketyena Bhidhatte. The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Brahma's death. And it controls all activities. It is always revolving and spending the lives of the living entities from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity, and thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it is the personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefatigable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of a man-made god described in unauthorized scriptures. Such god can be scientist, doctor, whatever. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons and crows. Srimad Bhagavatam does not hold any punches at all. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion, and neither vultures, buzzards, crows nor herons can save one from such an attack. Perfect description. One who takes shelter of unauthorized man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. Yeah? Babas. So many Babas. So, this Hari Chakra is it cannot be counteracted. The weapon of the Lord is always relentless in its attack. So nothing can check. That does not mean, sometimes impersonalists, they attribute these kind of personal descriptions or physical descriptions of the Lord as relating to something more abstract. For example, this is a perfect example. The Lord has a chakra, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, Chakradhari. So, he has actually a disc, a spiritual disc, it is not a physical disc. But impersonalists say, oh, this is actually the time. Yes, it is time, but it is also an actual disc that the Lord holds. And then he manifests that disc in the form of time. This is thing we don't understand. It is not just abstract things that have been given a form for us to understand. No, not just that. Although they have impersonal representations in this material world, but they have its personal representation in the spiritual world. So, just like everything that is used by Krishna is a person. The flute is a person, the chakra is a person, the gada is a person, helmet is a person. There is nothing inanimate or non-living in the spiritual world. Everything is living as a person. And in fact, it is said that Lord Sankarshan, Balaram, he becomes all of the paraphernalia that the Lord uses and enjoys. That's why his name is called Sesha, Adisesha. Sesha means the end, because he has reached the end of service to Krishna. Only one person can serve Krishna completely, Balaram. That's why his name is called Shesha. He has reached the end of service. No, we cannot even begin to properly render service to the Lord, whereas he has reached the end of service. So, Vatapraya, crows, Gridhra, the Nama Ramayanam, there the Gridhradipati means Jatayu, the king of vultures. Kanka means buzzard. Pakhanda Devataha, concocted incarnation. See, this is like not like Prabhupada made up some translation. Actually, the Sanskrit word is Pakhanda Devata. Pakhanda means atheistic. Devata means gods. Atheistic God. What is it? Concocted incarnations of God, man-made gods, or even demigods. If we consider demigods as gods, that is also Pashandi. So, so this chakra, this is going on, and actually we have done a Tattvadarshan episode on Kala Chakra, on how there are so many cycles of time, small to big. Actually, this verse also says, you see. Oh. You see here in the Sanskrit, Paramanu Adi Dviparardha. You know what is the meaning? Paramanu means atom, atomic time. From atomic time all the way to Dviparardha. Parardha means one half of Brahma's life. So the entire universe exists for one full Brahma's life. And one half is Parardha and the another half is the second Parardha. First Parardha, second. So Dviparardha means the time that spans over two Parardhas, which is the entire life of Brahma. Now we are in the Dvitiya Parardha, second Parardha of Brahma. I think that is mentioned in 3.11.34, I think, Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are in the second Parardha of Brahma. So that entire Dviparardha, that time, that is the ultimate time, measurement of time, is the lifetime of Brahma itself. But beyond that, time is actually eternal. Time exists eternally. In the presence of eternal time, universes come and go, come and go, come and go. That is also a cycle. That is the biggest cycle that we can perceive or at least hear about. The cycle of creation, bhutva bhutva praliyate. But such cycles are happening even on atomic scale. Like in our context, we can see there is a cycle like day and night. Not even day and night, like even the clock. You see, the clock is also like a circle, Kala Chakra. So the seconds hand moves at a speed of 1 minute a revolution, right? And then the minutes hand 1 hour per revolution, and then the hours hand 12 hours per revolution. So there is different speeds of chakra of going round, and like that there is day and night. There is, and then again day and night, again day and night. So that is a circle. And there is a week, Sunday all the way to Saturday, again Sunday. That is again a cycle. And there is a month, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 30, and then again 1. Again that's a cycle. Like that there are months of the year, 12 months, January, February, all the way to December, again January. That's a cycle. Then there is a decade, 1 decade, then next decade, that's a cycle. Then century, then millennium. So in this way, there are bigger cycles, yugas, where the religiousness is the season of religiosity, seasons of religiosity. So most religious, 100% religious, 75% religious, 50% religious, 25% religious, all the way to 0. And again Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, again Satya Yuga. These are all cycles, and 1000 such cycles is 1 day of Brahma. In 1000 such cycles, there is no cycles at the time, but that period is a night of Brahma. And again, that is another cycle, day and night of Brahma, and his week, his month, his year, his decade, so like this, time moves in so many cycles. But it is also called chakra because chakra has two things. It moves in a round fashion, in a circular fashion, but also it moves forward, right? Especially when it's on a surface, it moves forward. Like the car wheels move in a circular motion, but the car moves forward. So the wheel of time moves in circles, but time moves actually forward. We cannot go back in time. There is no reverse gear in time, only forward. And as it goes, the wheel crushes everything in its path. Nothing escapes the wheel of time. Nothing. Just like a wheel crushes something, like that, we are crushed under the wheel of time, without exception. We may run as fast as we can. The scientists are trying to do that. They are trying to prolong life. They are trying to, go to other planets. But nowhere in this whole material world, Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetyu Kaunteya Punarjanma Navidyate. So, any planet we may go, we can never escape the influence of time. It will eventually catch up and destroy whatever frail material body we have. So, like cosmetics, they are called makeup because they are trying to make up for the lost beauty that once existed. They try to do facelift and this and that. They want to make up for the lost beauty. So that youthful beauty will eventually vanish and one becomes old and then finished. The Shankaracharya, he sings this Mohamudgara song, and in that he says, I don't remember the Sanskrit, it's 33 verses of Mudgara means hammer and Moha means illusion. So these verses actually hammer our illusion to pieces. It's very, very strong verses. Bhagavatam is also like that. You see, like this verse, vultures, herons, crows, and like absolute ruthless. Like there's no mercy towards all kinds of nonsense. So Mohamudgara song, there he says, we may think we are very beautiful in our youth, but then when we grow old, it starts to fade, and then when we actually die, even the wife who once loved the husband so dearly gets scared of the dead body of her own husband. Not to speak of just not beautiful, scared. if a woman wakes up and then finds that her husband is dead on the bed, she will freak out. The same body, she never saw the soul anyway. She saw always the body, but at one time she was like, oh, this is the person I love. And then next, when he dies, this is the person, even relatives burn the body. Those who paid thousands of dollars to save a body in the hospital or whatever, they will burn the body. So without the soul there is no value. But this is the point. This is a moha, illusion. We don't see the influence of time, how it is crushing everybody. So coming back to this point of today's verse. So yathaiva suryat prabhavanti varaha punascha tasmin pravishanti kale bhutani bhumau sthirajangamani tatha haraveva gunapravaha. So water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time during the summer season the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. In the rainy season the water, the sun evaporates the water and then it's poured forth as rain. The very same water is again absorbed by the sun in the summer again. So by this example we can this is again the connection between ordinary things and Krishna. How to see, these are the connecting points. These verses help us, because why? That's why we have to learn the verses, shlokas, because we are perceiving with our senses this world, but then we have to connect that perception to Krishna, and these kinds of verses, they always remind us, oh yeah, there was this verse that this evaporation by the sun is connected to the annihilation of everything by Krishna. So in this way we can, and when the rain comes, there is so much variety that comes, so many plants, so many insects, everything thrives, like that. Similarly, all living entities, moving and inert, are generated from the earth, and again after some time they all return to the earth as dust. What is that? Bhumau. Bhutani bhumau sthirajangamani. Tatha haraveva guna pravaha. So just by observing our body, which comes from dust and returns to dust, I think the Bible also has such a verse. What is that? Something, we come from dust and we return to dust. Of course the soul does not, but the body does. So from that we can, so just by studying the nature of our body, which we can perceive from creation to destruction, and we can see other people's bodies also from taking birth and then some people dying. So we have seen all the changes that the body undergoes. So from that we can understand how the cosmic manifestation also moves about or is generated and annihilated. So there is no need of going, constructing some spacecraft and sending it out into the space, trying to get some signal from the spacecraft, taking some pictures of some stars, some black holes and whatever, to understand how the universe started and how it's existing and how it will be wound up. So that's not the way to understand. So Krishna is giving us a very effective way of understanding. He is giving sample. You see the sample, and then you can understand the big thing also. So there is another example of a spider. I think spider's web 2.9.28. The web is created by the spider and it is maintained by the spider, and as soon as the spider likes, the whole thing is wound up within the spider. The spider is covered within the web. If an insignificant spider is so powerful as to act according to its will, why can't the Supreme Being act by his supreme will in the creation, maintenance and destruction of the cosmic manifestation? 4643. Okay. त्वमेव भगवन्नेतच्छिवशक्त्योः स्वरूपयोः विश्वं सृजसि पास्यत्सि क्रीडन् ऊर्णपटो यथा ऊर्णपटः spider's web. My dear Lord, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it and annihilate it by expansion of your personality, exactly as a spider creates, maintains and winds up its web. Another verse from Mundaka Upanishad. Urna again, yatha urna, yathorna nabhi srijate ghrunate cha, yatha prithivyam oshadhya sambhavanti, यथा सतः पुरुषात् केशलोमानि तथा क्षरात् संभवति विश्वम्. As a web is expanded and withdrawn by a spider, as plants grow from the earth and as hair grows from a living person's head and body, so this universe is generated from the inexhaustible Supreme. Mundaka Upanishad. See, hair grows from a living person. It does not grow from a dead person. So, everything is generated from the inexhaustible Supreme. Means the Supreme has to be a person. The spider is a person. Earth is also actually a person, ultimately. There's some verse here. 1087:36. Okay, so this is the Bhagavatam verse, prayers of the personified Vedas. So Sridhar Swami is saying, although this world has arisen from you who are the very substance of reality, it is not eternally real. The illusory snake appearing from a rope is not permanent reality, nor are the transformations produced from gold. The Vedas never say that they are. The actual transcendental non-dual reality is your supreme blissful personal kingdom. To that beautiful abode I offer my obeisances, O Lord Hari, to whom Goddess Indira always bows down. I also bow to you. Therefore, please never release me. Yeah, this is again 11:21:38. यथोर्णनाभिर्हृदयात् ऊर्णाम् again ऊर्णाम् उद्वमते मुखात् आकाशात् घोषवान् प्राणो मनसा स्पर्शरूपिणा छन्दोमयो मृतमयः सहस्रपदवीं प्रभुः ओंकाराद् व्यञ्जितस्पर्शस्वरोष्मान्तस्थभूषितां विचित्रभाषा विततां छन्दोभिश्चतुरुत्तरैः अनंतपारां बृहतीं सृजत्याक्षिपते स्वयं. Just as a spider brings forth from its heart its web and emits it through its mouth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests Himself as a reverberating primal vital air comprising all sacred Vedic meters and full of transcendental pleasure. Thus the Lord from the ethereal sky of His heart creates the great and limitless Vedic sound by the agency of His mind, which conceives of variegated sounds such as the sparshas. Sparshas means the consonants as opposed to vowels. The Vedic sound branches out in thousands of directions adorned with the different letters expanded from the syllable Om. The consonants, the vowels, sibilants and semivowels. The Veda is then elaborated by many verbal varieties expressed in different meters, each having 4 more syllables than the previous one. Ultimately, the Lord again withdraws His manifestation of Vedic sound within Himself. So anyway, these are the explanations that ultimately the Lord is the source, now He may outsource such functions of creation, maintenance and annihilation to His energies. Srishti sthiti pralaya sadhana shakti reta chhaye vayasya bhuvanani vibharti durga इच्छानुरूपमपि यस्य च चेष्टते स गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. सृष्टि स्थिति pralaya sadhana shakti reka. So this srishti is creation, sthiti means maintenance, and pralaya means destruction. Sadhana shakti reka. So this shakti is the energy or power of the Supreme Lord, who is Shaktiman. Now he has outsourced that activity to the Shakti, Durga. That does not mean she is the independent creator, maintainer or annihilator of this material world. She does it chhaiva yasya bhuvanane vibharti Durga ichhanurupam api yasya cha cheshate sa. Ichhanurupam, according to the will of Lord Govinda, as chhaiva yasya bhuvanane. Chhaya means a shadow. So she works like a shadow without any disobedience, just as a shadow moves without any disobedience. So like that she conducts herself. So Krishna does not personally take part in any of the material activities, but still he is the source, ultimate source of everything, and he is the rest of everything as well. So this is what is explained in this verse, and just as the previous verse also said, which is a very important verse, yatha taror moola nishechanena tripyanti tatskandha bhujopashakha pranopahara chayatendriyanam tathaiva sarvar hanamachyutejya. So understanding that the Lord is the source of everything, we have to engage ourselves with full conviction in his service, and automatically everything. Shraddha, what is Shraddha? Shraddha shabde vishwasa ko hai sudridha nischay. Krishna karma koilo sarva karma krita hoy. That means Shraddha means the unflinching faith that by just serving Krishna, everything else, every other subsidiary activity is automatically performed perfectly. So that is Shraddha. So the Shraddha comes by hearing this kind of philosophy, that he is the ultimate source, rest of everything. So I'd like to stop here. Any questions or comments on this topic? Huh? Huh. What is that? I cannot hear.
Chaturshloki of Bhagavatam and Chaturshloki of Bhagavad Gita, right? So, like, some acharyas told these are the four important slokas.
Yeah.
How that translates?
Yes. I do not remember which acharya, but Prabhupada definitely said. So it must be some acharya must have declared that these are the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita and this is Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, the original Bhagavatam, which the Lord spoke to Brahma and here in this case Arjuna. Divya Mataji, so great explanation on the crush of the wheel of time, Kala Chakra. Never heard this kind of explanation before. Moves in circles and forward, not reverse. Although it's known, yet great insight. Okay, Himanshu Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, which writings of Shankaracharya to accept and which should not? Because as I know, Shankaracharya had interpreted the Vedas and gave Mayavadi philosophy on the order of Lord Vishnu. By the way, his Jagannath Ashtakam is so nice. Actually, just before this Bhagavatam class started, we also we sang the Achyuta Ashtakam, which was also written by Shankaracharya. Of course, recently, in the 20th century, Pandit Jasraj, who was a poet, he did another version of Achyuta Ashtakam in Hindi, which of course has devotional conclusion, but we would prefer proper Acharya's song, which is Shankaracharya. in his devotion, like Moha Mudgara is also by Shankaracharya. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Mudhamate. So this song is actually Moha Mudgara. So we know he is Lord Shiva, who has come as Shankaracharya and bewildered on the order of Lord Narayana. But we know that he is the greatest Vaishnava. So his Vaishnava writings are acceptable, but his Mayavad writings are not. So his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra is all rubbish. But that rubbish was ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do. So he did that to bewilder the atheists, the Buddhists at that time. It was a timely necessity but not an eternal principle. So Divya Mataji is asking, Prabhuji, in one of your previous lectures you mentioned like the word selection in Srimad Bhagavatam while describing some attitude or attribute is not any exaggeration or simply like that. In that zoology learning class, deer cannot see. Okay. She's writing in very short form actually. So I was explaining how the deer cannot see 3 colors, only 2 colors, which enables the tiger to hide in plain sight of the deer. So anyway, in that zoology learning class that the deer cannot see. Similarly, at many verses, grass is glorified to such an extent that an exalted devotee should become more humbler than grass. And crows are always compared as negative, and vultures as well, but Jatayu a great devotee. Sometimes by hearing their descriptions again and again, for example, camel, ass, hogs, cats and dogs, we have inbuilt disgusting feeling towards them. How to see them equally as a devotee even after knowing these many descriptions about them? Dog also, although it is condemned, it is also glorified. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, what is that? Vaishnava Tumar Kukur. Vaishnava Thakur Tumar Kukur. He has written a song like that. So I am your dog, O Vaishnava. There is a good quality in dog, but very loyal. Dog becomes bad when its master is bad. So if it becomes loyal to a bad master, then that is condemned. Like Shudra is compared to dog because he begs around for service of some paltry human beings. I mean, Chapala Sukhalagba Lagire. So, for insignificant happiness, he becomes a dog for some materialistic persons. But we have to become a dog. In fact, Prabhupada compared this Tulasi Mala as a dog collar. It was a dog of Krishna. We have to become at least dog of Krishna. We have to be loyal to Krishna and loyal to his devotees. Vaishnava Thakur Tumar Kukur. So dog is glorified also. So everything has its grass of course is very low born among the plant species, but it is glorified. For example, tree tolerant like a tree, right? But actually the tree has no choice. It has to be tolerant. You cannot do anything about it. But we, being able to do something about it, but still not doing anything about it and being tolerant, so that is what is. It's not that the tree is voluntarily very tolerant. No. That's how it is designed to be. It has feelings definitely, because it's a living entity, but it's forced to stand like that. But we can move. We can do something about it. But still not doing anything to retaliate any onslaught of offense. So that is tolerance. So we can take from that example. That's why there is this verse, no? That whole description of the 24 gurus in the 11th canto. Right? So those 24 gurus, learning good qualities from, one of the examples, one of the 24 was the bangles of a girl. When she had all bangles and she was doing some work and all the bangles were clashing with each other and so much noise. Then she removed all the bangles, then only 2 bangles on one on this and one on that. But when the hands come together again, there is some sound. Then she removed 1 more bangle and there is only 1. Now there is no sound. So that means, whenever there are people around, there will be noise and there will be interaction. So we have to be wanting to live alone, but of course in devotees association, but away from materialistic people, because there will be unnecessary noise. So that kind of lessons. But the bangles have no thinking. They are not like Paramahamsas sitting alone somewhere. No, they are nothing. So it is actually these 24 gurus. There is explanation is there by Jiva Goswami, very elaborate, because that verse, I think 11.9.31, it is said this thing. This point is very nicely made. Because the verse is quite controversial in itself. Nahi ekasmat guror jnanam susthiram syat supushkalam brahmaitad advitiyam vai giyate bahudarshibhihi. Although the absolute truth is one without a second, the sages have described him in many different ways. Therefore, one may not be able to acquire very firm or complete knowledge from one spiritual master. It means you have to have many spiritual masters. Now, that is very controversial, so that's why Acharyas have commented on this to explain. Sridhar Swami comments on this verse as follows: the statement that one requires many spiritual masters certainly needs explanation, since practically all great saintly persons of the past did not take shelter of many spiritual masters, but rather accepted one. The words Giyate Bahudharshibhihi, the absolute truth is glorified in many ways by the great sages, indicate the personal and impersonal understandings of the absolute truth. In other words, some sages describe only the Lord's impersonal effulgence, which is without spiritual variety, whereas others describe the Lord's manifest form as the personality of Godhead. Thus, merely by hearing from many different authorities, one cannot actually learn the highest perfection of life. The proliferation of differing spiritual authorities is useful only to counteract the living entity's tendency to be grossly materialistic. Different spiritual philosophers create faith in the existence of the soul and may be accepted at that level, but as will be clarified in later verses, the spiritual master who ultimately gives perfect knowledge is one. Now, Jiva Goswami's comment is what I want to actually highlight on. Srila Jiva Goswami comments as follows on this verse: since it is commonly understood that one is to accept a single spiritual master, why is it recommended that one learn from many so-called spiritual masters appearing in the forms of ordinary material objects? The explanation is that one's worshipable spiritual master will instruct one in many departments of knowledge by giving lessons gleaned from ordinary objects. As recommended by the Brahmana Avadhut, one can strengthen the teachings received from one's Acharya and avoid transgressing his orders by observing ordinary things in nature. One should not mechanically receive the teachings of one's Guru. The disciple should be thoughtful and with his own intelligence realize in practice what he has heard from his spiritual master by observing the world around him. In this sense, one may accept many gurus, though not those who preach against the knowledge received from the bona fide spiritual master. In other words, one should not hear from persons like the atheist Kapila. So this is very important. So grass is not a big guru. Grass is not teaching us, this is how you have to be humble like me. He is not talking, he does not have any brain to talk also. But it's the spiritual master's instruction through which we see that quality in a grass and we learn something from that. So that is why I said the verses which connect us when we see Sthavara and Sthirajangameshu, Sthirajangamani, today's verse, and Sthavara Jangam Dekhe na Dekhe Tar Murti, by observing the world around us, by observing the moving and non-moving things, we can learn many things only because of these verses, these explanations by Krishna and the Acharyas. Otherwise, we may see the same thing, but we do not take the same lesson from that. So, it is a reflection of the spiritual master's instruction from that thing. But it only works if we assimilate the knowledge given by the spiritual master. Then when we see it, it reminds us of, like every Thursday when we go to the market, to the vegetable market in the morning, We turn the van here, and then there's a drunken man sitting there. Always one Indian fellow, drunk fellow sitting there on the footpath. Every time I see that man, I remember this verse. I just sing to myself this verse. Deham chanashwaram avasthitam utthitam va siddho na pashyati yatodhyagamat swarupam daivadapetam atha daivavashadupetam vaso yatha parikritam madiramadanga. Just as a drunken man does not notice if he is wearing his coat or shirt, similarly one who is perfect in self-realization and who has thus received his eternal identity does not notice whether the temporary body is sitting or standing. Indeed, if by God's will the body is finished, or if by God's will he obtains a new body, a self-realized soul does not notice, just as a drunken man does not notice the situation of his outward dress. So, it makes me remember, every time I see him, I will remember this verse. So, I am now memorized this verse because of him. But he is not my guru, he is not instruct me anything, but it is just a Prabhupada gave this, but it reflects. So these things remind us like that. Like wearing of clothes, every day we are wearing, vasam sijirnani yathavi. It reminds us. So that's. Yes. If you want to get detached from the just like dog has positive connotation and negative connotation. So similarly, this is the negative connotation as Vishwambhavu has put it. Loke vivaya mishamadya seva nitya hijantor nahi tatra chodana vyavasthitisteshu vivaha yajna suragrahairasu nivrittirishta. In this material world, the conditioned soul is always inclined to sex, meat eating and intoxication. Therefore, religious scriptures never actually encourage such activities. Although the scriptural injunctions provide for sex through sacred marriage, for meat eating through sacrificial offerings, and for intoxication through the acceptance of ritual cups of wine, such ceremonies are meant for the ultimate purpose of renunciation. Even like the Shankaracharya's verse about a woman's body, or even Rukmini's verse about the man's body, which is full of disgusting elements only. So that is a negative lesson, that we have to not be attracted by this. But then Krishna, like Prabhupada also gave the positive, that if like one devotee asked how to control our mind when we see a beautiful woman. Prabhupada said, you must think that she is a gopi of Krishna. She is meant for his enjoyment. And immediately the lust will go. It is for his enjoyment, not mine. So that is another way of saying it. So everything can remind us. So one thing can remind us of many, many things. Like the tree, we can learn from it tolerance, and we can also learn from it how, like yatha taror mula nishechanena, by just watering the root, every part of the tree can be served. So just by serving Krishna, everybody can be served. And also from the tree we can learn that by deepening our roots and widening and strengthening our roots, our trunk can be strong, that can nourish the entire tree. And then like the fruit and shade giving tree, this tree gives shade. What external people see the tree doing is giving shade, giving wood, giving flowers, fragrance, giving fruits. It is only charitable, very charitable. The tree is very charitable. But it is only possible because the roots are strong. So we have to be strongly rooted in our Krishna consciousness, and then only we can nourish ourselves and also help others. Many things we can learn from one thing. You see? Yeah, not bad. See, because actually that's a very good example. We can see them, we can remember the Kuvera's sons, Nalakuvara, Manigriva, and what Krishna said to them. And we can remind our position is similarly, You know what he said to them? Actually what he thought to himself only. 10:10:25. Devarshir me priyatamo yadimau dhanadatmajau tattatha sadhayishyami yadgeetam tanmahatmana. Although these two young men are the sons of the very rich Kuvera and I have nothing to do with them, Devarshi Narada is my very dear and affectionate devotee, and therefore, because he wanted me to come face to face with them, I must do so for their deliverance. So although we are also in this material world useless like those trees, Krishna is taking interest in us because Prabhupada has taken interest in us. Just like Narad Muni has taken interest in the two boys, two men, then Krishna was interested. He has nothing to do with it. So Krishna has nothing to do with us, but because of Prabhupada. And then also the other verse which says that in the second canto, it is said that if we don't use our legs to go to temple, then we are like tree, because the tree does not move. So in this material world we may move very much, but we are not moving from the material world. So we are fixed up, extending our roots in this material world and becoming attached to it like a tree and refusing to move. But we have to travel to the spiritual world. So if we are not using our legs to go to the temple of the Lord and the holy place of pilgrimage, then we are like tree. So in this way, many things. Divya Mataji, by doing nothing, grass is glorified. Rosie, can you provide any insight on this? So, yeah. So, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned grass, so because devotees remember a lot of things from grass. Pranadapi Sunichananda, very important verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, grass will get some punya. Krishna arranged a drunken man for you, Prabhu, to realize this every day. Yeah. So, alright, I think we'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.